So, welcome everybody to February 2024 Community Update. This is Onino. It's as always, as every month, Kai, Lucas, and I joining this call, giving you the latest and greatest of Onino. And I would say let's jump right into the first topic, which is what is Onino, and brought to us by Kai this week.
Yeah, thank you very much, Alex. Just as always, as every week, we're just giving a little rundown on what Onino exactly is for everybody that has joined freshly into our community. So we are Onino, Alex, Lucas, and I, the three co-founders. We're a German blockchain startup, and we are building a own layer 1 infrastructure protocol that is based on DAG technology and allows everybody to easily create their own customized subchain that is exactly tailored to their needs. And on top of that blockchain protocol, we are building a cloud platform, the Onino cloud platform, which we'll also see later in the update. And this is a tool that allows everybody, be it a developer or also a non-technical user, to easily ideate, develop, deploy, and also integrate high-quality blockchain solutions directly onto our chain and make that accessible to everybody out there. That is a quick run on Onino.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kai. And with this, let's jump into the next one. Yeah, as always, as every month, we have the community update, a community shout out. And this month, a big thank you to I am Rossi and Mike Benkal. I hope I have correctly pronounced that. Yeah, thank you very much for being so active. Thank you for being great community members and being active on especially Twitter. So thank you very much. And let's see who's going to be there next month. So we have a couple of topics. This one is going to be a little shorter, I think, just because we have focused on compacting it, having only the most important and relevant information for you. First, we're going to give you a cloud platform update, then blockchain update, then we're going to be talking about partners and customers, then events, and then we'll have the questions, pre-recorded and live questions. And with that, let's jump right into the cloud platform update.
Yes, thank you, Alex. So, as I said before, just following up on the quick Onino intro, more detailed explainer again on what the Onino cloud platform is. Here you can already see the two first screens. So as I said before, the cloud platform is set to allow everybody to easily create and deploy blockchain solutions. On the one hand, after signing up, you have the template gallery, where we have several pre-built smart contract templates that you can directly customize and use on the platform. Or you could also use our custom AI assistant that allows you to writes the smart contract code for you if you're yourself no expert in smart contract programming. Then we have a, so to say, deployment engine that allows you to simply and without writing any code deploy your smart contracts to the network of your choice with one click. And then in the end, as your smart contracts also have to come to life somewhere, it also offers detailed integration guides, how you can integrate these smart contracts you just deployed into your app or your backend, and also offers another AI assistant that is tailored to help you integrate blockchain into your existing IT infrastructure. And as always, we're also going to have a quick update on what has been done in the last month on the Untitled cloud platform, and also the outlook on what is to come. So we're going to start with the first. Some of you may have already seen the blog post, but just a quick recap. In the end of January, we released another huge or major cloud platform update. So as you see, we have completely reworked the UI designs and also the layout and structures. Yeah, at this point, big thanks to everybody who gave us the detailed feedback. As you have seen, you can now pin the sidebar. So we heard every little bit of UI feedback from you guys. Also, what you can't really see, but you could at some point notice it under the hood, is that we improved what we call the compile and deploy engine. In rather non-technical terms, this is, so to say, like the under the hood code of our platform that just takes your smart contracts that you enter, or the templates you enter, or the AI generated code that you enter, compiles them so the blockchain can understand them, and then at the same time, or quickly after that, deploys it to your testnet or mainnet of choice. And we have made it a lot more robust and flexible. If anybody wants a bit more technical details, please feel free to ask in the chat. For example, you can now use also smart contract code that uses imports. So we have just expanded the capabilities of this compilation and deployment engine to be able to handle a lot more different smart contracts or a lot broader variety of different smart contracts seamlessly. And also, we have added several exciting new templates. So if you haven't yet, just quickly jump to the platform and scroll to the template gallery and see if you find anything interesting for you. And let us know what you think of the new update, of course. Would be happy for that. Yeah, and with that, I think we can go to what's next on Unino Cloud Platform. So what is basically currently going on behind the scenes on the cloud platform? What are we planning to do in the next weeks? So one thing that we are currently very much putting our emphasis on is on our ongoing user validation process, right? We are conducting user interviews. For example, we will also start in a few weeks with detailed user interviews with a rather large development partner of us that is basically stemming from Web 3, Web 2, and now also wants to move into Web 3. So basically the perfect user, so to say, for our platform. And yeah, we just put a lot of emphasis on that, since we really want to find out what the problems are that the people who are currently Web 2 developers have and what hinders them of becoming a Web 3 developer. And based on that, we also want to align and optimize our feature roadmap to sum it up, achieve our overarching goal that we basically enable Web 3 adoption and bring the next generation of people that are currently not there into Web 3 and in the, of course, in the sense to bring them onto our own network, the Onino network. So the features that we are currently working on, that are currently in progress, is, as I presented already last time, if you might recall it, is the smart contract analytics functionality. You can think of it as something like a Google Analytics for the smart contracts that you have deployed, so that in the future, you as a developer don't have to stalk through block explorers and type out the numbers that you get there into your Excel sheets, but you will be able to easily analyze all the smart contracts you own or currently are running in a clean and simple dashboard and get insights. And the second point we are currently strongly working on is what we call the Cloud Development IDE, because right now the focus on the platform is mostly on the template gallery that we have and our AI assistant that can generate the code. We also want to offer a full-fledged cloud development environment so that people don't basically have to switch from their code editor into the platform and copy and paste the code, but want to enable people to directly develop the code that they want to directly in the platform itself. And one little sneak peek, you can stay tuned for that. Next week, we are releasing a major update of the Onino AI assistant across all stages, which will be a lot better than the old AI assistant and have a lot more capabilities. So yeah, you can stay tuned for that, and we're already looking for your feedback on the new AI assistant now, and are excited to see what you think of it. Yeah, that's the quick little rundown on the Onino platform so far. And as always, if you have any feature requests, if you have any feedback, if you have any wishes or questions regarding the platform, please just feel free to text it in Telegram, or even better, directly use the feedback form in the Onino platform itself.
Yes, and I believe it might not be currently fully visible or fully understandable, the vast amount of value that the cloud platform will generate. But we as a team, we do see that platform as a tool that one day any Web 2 developer or Web 3 developer that basically develops a blockchain solution will use the Onino cloud platform in one step or another. And that's something we're working strongly towards, and especially working towards them using the cloud platform to also deploy on the Onino blockchain. And with that, let's jump into a few updates regarding the blockchain department and everything that is happening around the blockchain. Everyone that listened to the last community update might know this slide. I just wanted to show it again. So these are the major things that we're working towards for the whole of this year in regards to our blockchain protocol. Of course, it starts with the protocol audit. The main thing that many of us are looking forward to is also the release of the main chain. Then providing every technical framework that is needed for validator, staking, and delegation, which can get a lot more complex because there have been quite a few issues with especially delegation in the past, and we just want to mitigate any security issue that can come up. The same with an exchange integration, and also finally the release of the Onino subchain SDK and toolkits, which we are strongly working towards. But enough for the overall plans. many people are interested on what we're currently working on and what are the current focus points when it comes to our blockchain development efforts. And let me just get into that on the next slide. Yes, perfect. That is the right slide. So I broke it down into 4 sections, so it might be easily understandable for everyone. So the first thing that we're currently actively working on is the exchange integration. On the one hand, the integration, exchange integration for the currently BEP20 token on the Binance Smart Chain. And following that, the integration of the Onino main chain as a native and customs EVM compatible chain to exchanges to allow people to flawlessly deposit and withdraw from and to the Onino main chain, which in itself luckily basically holds a lot less complexity as we are EVM compatible. Another major step currently is part of the current phase 1 of our whole testnet initiative, which is after initial testing and getting some initial feedback and also seeing the overall performance of the architecture for the whole node structure, is implementing our learnings based on the feedback we've gathered. So we're currently working on a few updates on the current node client software and also working on some smaller performance improvements, also some protocol adjustments before we will be ready to onboard the testnet validators, which will be coming in phase 2. And immediately bringing me to the third point on the slide. We are starting to prepare everything necessary to onboard the testnet validators. Be aware that we will not onboard anyone that has previously applied to be a testnet validators. There will be a selected few that we will reach out to, and they will get all necessary instructions to basically install the node client software and then also, simply put, connect the node to the network and start performing validating duty for the Onino testnet. And once phase 2 is completed is where we will be transitioning to the auditing. So for us, it's paramount to, on the one hand, ship in a timely manner, but most importantly, to ship something that is secure. And for a blockchain protocol, that is always something that has to do with auditing and then also some bug bounty programs. And once we've accomplished phase 2 in a way that we can say our node client software works flawlessly with external validators, we can transition to exactly that, checking our protocol for any security vulnerabilities that might have been left out during the previous testing. And when the auditing is done, we will be ready to transition to the next phases, which will then be closer towards the mainnet migration. And the last thing on the slide, which is a quite exciting thing for us as a team and for you as a community, most likely as well, is that we are currently actively working on the first subchain implementations, and then also working on bringing these subchain implementations from local staging networks to the current active testnet and see how subchains performs and our framework performs on a simulation of a live running network. And these are really broadly speaking on a more top level, and we try to keep it as non-technical as possible about the current things that our developers and we are currently working on. And if you have any questions, I'm already looking forward to the live Q&A later on. And with that, we can go on, and I will give the scepter to Alex.
Perfect. Thank you very much. All right. In the next step, let's talk about partners and customers. We have a quick little but nice update here. So first, you all know our customer Kadaiko, customer and partner, and they are having a flash sale in cooperation with a special community this Wednesday on the 7th of February. So if you want to have any information, feel free to visit their Telegram or the website kadai.co, and you'll find all the links there. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty cool one. It's not the big pre-sale that has been announced. It's just a step in between, a flash sale with a great community. And yeah, if you want to have any information, if you want to have any exclusive and early possibility to purchase any more Kadaiko tokens, feel free to join the group and you'll have all the information there. So then we have ongoing interest from the banking sector, and we're working on projects with different banks. Unfortunately, it's banks and it's Germany. So on one hand, it takes time. On the other hand, there's NDAs. So we cannot share any specific details about the projects yet. But we will be able at some point, once those projects go official, once you can see the results. So trust us, we're working on things that are very interesting and that will have quite an impact, I think. And you will be very interested to hear about it once we can share more information. And we will do so as soon as we can. But unfortunately, today is not the day. Then we have a new project that's starting with a company that's in the real estate and construction industry. Same here, NDAs, so we can't tell you either on what exactly we're working nor who it is. But if you do a little research, you could find which company. There are not too many here. It is we're working with, but yeah, it's a pretty cool project and it's very interesting. That's also very near the idea we have with Onino. So this is going to be super interesting. And then what we are going to be starting soon is a partner integration into the Onino cloud platform. And yeah, not ready to share any information there either because contracts are not done yet, but there will be some in the future. So stay tuned for that. And then let's go to the events. We had a couple of cool events last month. On the left side, you see an event from our university, the KIT. This event was called the KIT Innovators Homecoming. And essentially, it was the university realizing that they had many great minds and they never really sent them back to university or back to Karlsruhe to see what it was. So essentially, it was the goal to invite all the innovators that had passed through KIT, which is the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, a university that's kind of the MIT of Germany. The name is near and the quality aspect is as well. And yeah, that was pretty cool, seeing all the innovators and being invited there as well. So we had one stand there. You see Kai standing there. Lucas and I aren't in the picture, unfortunately. As always, we're in so many discussions and talks with people that we didn't even think of taking a picture with all of us. We're trying our best. Maybe next time we'll achieve that. And on the right side, you see the AR Artist on Tour, which is an event where you discuss all things about sales and product development, and essentially ARR, which is annual recurring revenue, is one important metric. And you see a couple of cool innovators there. And we, with two other companies, were the ones that were organizing this event in Karlsruhe. So this was pretty cool. They were at the hall where we have our office. So right in front of our office, there were, I think, Lucas, something between 70 and 90 people there. And yeah, that was a pretty cool event as well. And these were the past events. And then we'll give you a little outview to see what events are upcoming. And the first one is going to be this week on the 8th of February, which is the Road to Start Summit 2024 in Stuttgart. I will have a little pitch there of 3 minutes, and I'm going to be pitching what Onino is, what our main proposition is, what our product is, and how we want to change the landscape. Then there will be an international expansion of Onino. It's going to be the first overseas event for us. So there will be an event in the USA, in Austin, Texas, which is the SXSW, which is going to be in March, proclaimed biggest tech conference in the world. And then there is going to be the Paris Blockchain Week, I think, which many of you know, which is going to be in April. If you are visiting any of those events, especially the one in Austin, Texas, or in Paris, hit us up. We'll be there. Would be great to see you. And yeah, this is a little roundup regarding the upcoming events. And with that, let's jump right into the questions.
Yeah, I think I will just take over the first one. So the first question we got is the testnet that we do. So Onino, we as Onino do, I suppose. What is the benefit of it? So yeah, I think we can just take this question to go a bit more into detail again, what the purpose of a testnet is and why that is crucially needed. So if you want to, you can just imagine such a testnet, kind of like a series of test drives for the new car that, for example, Mercedes is developing, or that is currently being developed. And before you publicly launch and sell that car, then you definitely want to make multiple test drives with that car to test it thoroughly and to be able to identify and also fix any potential problems that could arise during these test drives. And maybe also during these test drives, you gain any user feedback. For example, hey, make the steering wheel a bit smaller or a bit larger to make it even better drivable, whatever. And you just want to get ideas for the improvement that you also want to build into that car. And yeah, by making these test drives, you just have a kind of a sandbox that allows you to test out these new features before they have any potentially harmful impact if they don't work as you imagine. And that is basically exactly what a testbed is for a blockchain. So it's kind of like a playground and also like a staging network for the blockchain's developers, in this case us, and also for the users of the blockchain to test it out before it's even fully finished launched. And yeah, the goal is basically, as I said before, to make performance benchmarks, to make thorough security checks, and also to test out and implement new features without making, for example, an actual live blockchain with actual value behind it crash. And this is why we have testnets, just to have a playground environment that is safe for new features and doesn't lead to losing money when something goes wrong. Yeah, and I think then, hopefully it was an okay explanation. We'll just move on to the next one. Will it be possible to run a node on Windows or Linux only? So current node implementation, or the node client implementation, better said, that we have is tailored for Unix-based systems, such as, for example, Mac OS or Linux. Has a lot of reasons. I don't want to go in there because they're quite technical. But however, if you actually want to run a node on a Windows PC, if you do want to do so, then that's also not a problem, because you can, in theory, easily set up a Linux virtual machine, a Linux VM, and then in this VM run your node client. Or alternatively, what most of the people prefer anyways, you can also simply run the node client on the cloud hosting service of your choice, such as AWS, Azure, and so on. So this is also, while it's not directly runnable with Windows, basically because you have to re-implement large parts of the node client software, then you can easily mock it by using Linux VM or a cloud hosting provider. And I think the next one I will just pass over to Lucas.
Yes. And the next question is, how will the transfer of the BEP20 ONI token onto the Onino blockchain technically work? So the main premise for us is to make the migration on the one hand as simple as possible, but on the other hand as secure as it can possibly be. Because like for migration in general, we do believe while it should be simple, it should not be focused on speed. It should mainly be focused that there cannot be any loss when you migrate one asset from one chain to another chain. As we've seen multiple times, that bridges often kind of are one of the weakest entry points to any blockchain system, or weakest points in terms of how protocols can get hacked and how funds can get lost. So currently we are actually in talks that also involves some partners to think about ways to facilitate a migration in a way that we can also remain the accessibility of the BEP20 ONI token, which currently resides on the Binance Smart Chain. But what I will present you now is you can see as a separate migration process. And if we have more details on the BEP20 token, and if it remains, we will share that as soon as possible. So the migration itself involves, let's say, a migration period. On that period that will be clearly communicated, will be a longer period, so everyone gets the chance to migrate their tokens. And you can simply imagine it technically like a one-way bridge. So currently what we know as bridges is that you basically send an asset on one chain to a bridge provider, and that bridge provider, you could say, airdrops the asset, which then often exists as a wrapped token in any form on the other native network to exactly the same address that you provided or that you sent the tokens into or the asset into. So for migration, you can think of it like a one-way bridge where you send your ONI token from the Binance Smart Chain to our provided migration protocol, and these tokens will then be burned forever that previously resided on the Binance Smart Chain and will be airdropped on the other side to say so, on the Onino mainnet to exactly that address that you previously held your token on the Binance Smart Chain. And then there will be a specific migration for validators themselves. Validators will be able to deposit their token before the launch of the mainnet if they want to decide to be active, eligible validators directly from the start of the Onino mainnet. So directly from the generation of the Genesis block of the mainnet, they will be able to deposit their tokens in the pre-staking contract, to say so, which will basically allow them to lock their tokens previously and get an immediate airdrop through the balance allocation in the Genesis block, so they can have their validators up and running directly from the start when the Onino mainnet launches. More information on that, on how everything works and the migration window and the clear guides for everyone will be published when we are approaching the migration itself. And we just want to make sure that we make it as simple as possible. There will also be a dedicated page, web page, where you can handle the whole migration process, so everyone can feel safe and can trust that what they are doing in the migration is safe and that they don't have to do anything manually, but everything is handled for them. As much to the migration, and directly go on with the next question, which kind of ties into the whole migration process, because it is, are you still on track for mainnet end of Q1? As already covered in the blockchain update section previously, for us, of course, we want to launch in a timely manner, but we are 100% prioritizing the launch of a functioning and most of all secure network before bringing something that is in an immature state to the market itself. Currently, we are still in the phase 1 of the testnet and then implementing some protocol changes before we transition to phase 2. And as previously mentioned, once the phase 2 is successfully conducted, we can start continuing with the protocol audits to get, basically, for anyone that does not know what an audit is, you can imagine it like it's an official stamp of certain third-party and independent entities that can basically not guarantee 100%, but guarantee that close to 100% that the protocol or smart contract or whatever application you're using is secure. And these audits, alongside a few potential bug bounty programs, will then allow us to officially also communicate the whole migration process, because we then know that the protocol is in a state that we don't have to go through additional iterations, and then each iteration for you as context, you would always want to develop it. Then you push it to your staging network. Once it is running on your staging network, you push it to the test network, and then you see at the end the final result, if it fully works as you thought it and when you conceptualized it. And then either you can push it to a mainnet or you go back to the drawing board and start the whole process again. So it is, you could say, a tedious, but it mostly a time-consuming and complex thing to do. But to manage the expectations, there might be some delays, but we do not want to communicate a clear deadline for the release before we have conducted our audits, because security is paramount, and that is something we 100% prioritize before launching too early. And with that, I will directly go on with the next question regarding everything around tech. And the next question is, does this protocol still include the identity state layer and a privacy preservation layer? For anyone that has not heard of these terms before, on the one hand, highly encourage reading our business white paper, but also I will just give you a quick introduction. So on the overall vision behind the Onino network was always to build a network that allows people on the one hand to deploy their own subchains on a DAG-based architecture and mostly a DAG-based consensus engine. and then also allows people to use their digital identity by leveraging the capabilities of our identity state layer, and then also be active on a public network by still having privacy preserving features through our privacy preservation layer. And to answer the question, yes, they are still included in the long-term vision behind the Onino network, but we always have to differentiate between what can happen in the short term, what can happen in the midterm, and what can drive value in the long-term vision behind the network. And especially when it comes to something as complex as an identity feature, this is something that will not be scope of the mainnet that we will be launching. And especially not something of the scope of the subchains, because the mainnet and the subchain itself will be paramount for the value that we will launching in the 2024. And then we can start working on the identity state layer and also partner up with existing companies that exactly facilitate that. That being said, the privacy preservation layer is something that we will incorporate it to a certain extent already when we are able to launch our subchains, which in that extent especially means that we will allow private subchains to be deployed on our public infrastructure, which is something that is quite new and something that makes Onino unique in a way that companies are allowed to host their private networks while still being publicly validated through our subchain infrastructure. So you see, it's a whole complex lot of topics, but we do have a strategic approach, but mostly we always want to align our efforts in a way that the value created is the biggest that we can create for our user base, for our supporters, and for the developers using it at the end. And that's why we scope out and spread out the individual layers and individual feature sets on a longer time frame. So much that question, and I believe the next one is also one that I can answer immediately, and it is a question around the token in general and the market in general. And it's just a simple question around, are there any updates on the CX listing? We do know that you are eager for an announcement, as we already teased you in the last community update. And we do have put quite a lot of work into building out our whole strategy for the coming months to increase the reach and the accessibility of Onino to any supporter and any blockchain, Web3 and crypto loving individual out there. Regarding the CX listing in specific, I unfortunately have to say that we currently are just waiting for the final exchange of legal documents. But as soon as that is done, you will be hearing from us through our well-known channels, and you will definitely not miss that once everything is done and dusted and regulatory signed off.
All right, and with that, to the rest of the questions, which I think the first is again one for you, Lucas.
Yeah, just taking a little sip of water. And the first question is something, or a question directed towards the team, who's behind Onino, and what our plans are. And exactly the question in its words are, is there likely to be any further team expansion soon? And the simple answer is 100%. We do want to grow, but most importantly, we want to grow organically and make sure we don't overhire. Like you always see, without naming any examples, but there's always things you can see where companies hire too fast, and then they will also have to do layoffs, which basically are not that much of value creating for anyone, whether it be the company or the people that worked at the company and got laid off. So for us, there are basically three things that are important for scaling up our team, which is 100% something we're working on right now. And one thing is, of course, having set up the right processes in your company system and your organizational structure to allow the people you want to hire to work the best. The second one is to hire the right people, the people with the right mindset, and best the people with a combination of mindset and skill. And then the third is that you don't want to jump onto any inquiry you can find, because premature hiring is something that often leads to less output and more overhead costs than doing it in a slow and efficient manner. That being said, if you know any proficient Golang developers, forward them directly to us, because we are actively looking for great developers that are especially proficient with Golang. And if they can have worked already on distributed system, that is definitely a plus point.
All right, and with that, two last questions regarding business development. First is, are you still networking with German banks, and has any partnerships or deal come from it? And the answer is simply put, yes. We are working specifically with 2 big banks on 3 big projects. Those are the ones that we have definitely already closed. Then there are still the events where we talk with different banks and important people from banks here and banks there, and up until like pretty much everywhere. So those are still ongoing, and those projects will and can bring big value. But as I said earlier, those on one hand take time, and on the other hand, they're still on the NDA. So we're not ready to share those yet. But like I said, once we have products that are official, that are launched, then we'll be able to disclose what we've been working on. So unfortunately, we can't say much more than that. And the next one is, has there been any interest in the grant program? And yeah, but we've made the decision that the projects that have applied for the grant program as of the moment will not be official, and that also once the grant program officially starts, because we have only announced it yet and haven't really started it yet, then we will be publicly talking about the ones, if they are great ones. And also feel free to share the information. The grant program is existent, we just haven't started it officially yet. So if you see any or have any information or any great projects, feel free to reach out and talk to us, and we will do our best to support you as best as we can. And with that, let's jump right into the live question segment. So, are there any questions in the chat? So I see one question, which is Onino built with compliance? If yes, how do you prove that? For instance, something like ISO 20022. Yes, it is built with compliance in mind. And for those ISO certifications, you need to go through a process to certify it. As we haven't launched the mainnet yet, the first step will be building the mainnet. The second is certifying the mainnet, like Lucas talked about it with auditors. And then the third step would be certifying it for compliance. And it will most likely be a specific solution on the mainnet that will be certified. Whether the whole mainnet will be certified is a total other story. That may make sense, but isn't a must. So we'll see that. So it is not certified yet because it's just not out yet. And depending on which segments we work with, it may make sense to get these specific or some other specific certifications. So it is built with certification and compliance in mind, but as of today, it's not certified yet because it's just not released yet.
Yes, there are 2 other questions. One is way up there. It was asked before we even started the community update. And the question is, how is the VC search coming? Is it still open? If so, and a deal is struck, how would it be structured? Of course, the search for any VC investor or strategic partner that also invests into a company is a long process, especially because there are, on the one hand, so many startups, but also on the other hand, so many investors out there. And we are currently still actively on the search, but we have found great feedback already, and especially feedback from people that you would call the not so traditional investor and not even traditional VCs, because what we like on the one hand, of course, the influx of outside capital is always great, but what is even better is the influx of outside knowledge and outside access to a whole new network. So this is where we have already a few strategic partners aligned that will help us on the one hand to propel our initiatives to bring blockchain outside of the current Web3 space, but also access a whole lot of new institutional customers and partners that we were not able to access before. I hope that answers your question. And the structure of the deal, these are all individual deals and things that have to be struck on an individual basis. So there's not much information I can share there.
Yeah, I think there was one from Michael Braun. Sorry, Michael, you have already remembered us. Thanks for the heads up. It's a bit hard to keep up with all the messages being sent in the chat. Michael has asked basically, how can I sell my Oni tokens after migration in the Onino mainnet? That actually ties closely in with what Lucas said before. So there will be an onboarding mechanism to migrate the tokens to the Onino mainnet at first. This is not fully planned out yet, but the mechanism will probably be one way, because obviously the old Oni token on the Binance Smart Chain won't have any use then anymore. So once you migrate to the Onino mainnet, you should also stay there, and there's no going back into an old and by then useless token, so to say. But as Lucas has said before, we are shortly before setting up our CEX integration, and this will also be valid for the mainnet tokens. So in case you would want to sell your tokens by then, you can simply do so via the CEX we are integrated with by then. Or if there's maybe even more than one CEX by then. Hope that answers the question. I see a thumbs up, so great. And then we have when migration, any update? I think this is referring to the Oni token. So if you're referring to the migration from the BEP20 token to the Onino mainnet, that will happen at mainnet launch.
All right, a couple more people typing. Let's see if there's any more questions. Is there going to be a European CX? Only answer if you can, of course. Good question. So for CEXs, for us, it's always important that on one hand, it has quality, it complies to every law that there is, and that there is on one hand volume, and on the other hand, the volume is real and not generated. And then, of course, you strive to have the biggest possible, in a reasonable price range exchange, which is why we're not going for the T1s at the moment. If there is going to be a European CX at some point, who knows? We'll see. I don't know, Lucas, if you have any more specific plans or a more specific answer than I do.
I guess the only thing to say to that right now is that we've gotten to get to know a few recently.
So any more questions, please feel free to raise them. Another good question by Michael Braun. He asked, will Unino Farm be frozen to 0% after the mainnet launch, or do you want to keep it up? Will there be a possibility for getting APR on the mainnet if you have less than 35K only? Addition from my side, which is the current validator threshold you need to run a validator node. That's a very good question, actually, Michael. I will just elaborate a bit more on that. So just as a quick reminder, the current farms that we have, or the staking pools we have, are, so to say, like preliminary staking pools that are, so to say, used, or like the focus of them is to get people used to the process of staking their tokens to keep the network up and running already before the network has been completely launched. And also it should allow people to, so to say, have the token amounts ready once they want to become real mainnet validators. And as I said before, when the migration to the mainnet has been completed, then these, so to say, simulated staking pools will be replaced by the actual protocol level staking pools. So I'm just going to go quickly, 1 second, if you allow me, into the technical details. So Michael, for example, if you want to be a validator and you want to participate in the process of running a node, then you would need the 35K only, so to say, right? That is your stake as a validator. But there's also, of course, in the protocol, the option of delegated staking. That means even if you don't run a node yourself and don't put up the 35K yourself, you can, so to say, just as you are doing it in the current farm, you can just take, for example, 1,000 only tokens or 500 or whatever, and, so to say, delegate it to a real, in quotes, staker, and then you will get a, so to say, participation share also. So it will be working exactly as it's working right now in the staking pools, only that the staking will be on protocol level, but you as a user won't notice that much of it, right? So there will be a great UI and a nice user-friendly interface where you can. The only addition is that you can select the validator that you want to stake your delegated tokens to, and then you will be able to deposit your only tokens and get rewards exactly as it is right now. So yeah, from the UI side, there won't be much different. From the underlying tech, there'll be a lot of difference, but yeah, you won't be able to notice that much. And the old staking pools we have right now, the old farm, this is going to be migrated as well via a process. And if you want to go a bit more into detail, Michael, we have that also in the last community update. I think we elaborate a bit more on that. Yeah, we try to make the process as automated as possible so that you guys, in a totally simplified manner, just click the migrate button. Then we try to handle everything in the background, and you will then directly have your old Oni tokens transferred to the staking pools of the new Oni token. And yeah, of course, we can't guarantee that you only have to make one button click, but we're going to try to reduce the effort that you have for this migration.
All right. I think we answered all the questions, and some were answered by the community as well. So, is there anything else? I see Lucas is typing, but I guess that's not a question, more of an answer. So I think that's it. Thank you very much for this month's questions and participating, being active everywhere, spreading the word of Onino. So thank you very much for being part of the Onino community. And I would say have a great evening and talk to you soon.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great start of the week and see you at latest or hear you in the latest and the next community update. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.